Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, August 6th, 2025. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week, we go back into the archives to remember Jack McAuliffe, the man recognized as the spark that lit the fuse of the world of craft brewing. We revisit 4 shows where we get to know Jack, brew with him on the patio, follow him to the GABF, and visit with him one last time at Fossil Cove Brewing. If you want to support us financially, check out patreon.com/basicbrewing, and thanks to everybody who's helping out in that way. If you go to patreon.com/basicbrewing, you can see a long list of stuff that you can access if you sign up as a supporter. Financial supporters this week will see an early release of a video that Steve Wilkes and I shot featuring his Transoceanic Pale Ale. It's sort of a basic, and I mean that in a good way, not like the kids say, but a basic beer that blends influences from the U.S. and the U.K. Financial supporters will also get that recipe. I appreciate you financial supporters sticking with us as we throttle back on the stream of episodes. You know, a reduced stream is natural as a podcast ages. My goal is to release 2 audio episodes per month. I still love doing the show, but the weekly deadline, you know, it's sometimes challenging, especially after 2 decades. I'm tired, to quote Madeline Kahn's character in Blazing Saddles, tired of being admired. We got fun things in the pipeline, including a hop sampler and beers from Adam at Twinspan and Josh at Gambit. Josh sent me a photo of artwork for his sci-fi Masher Luck beer that's coming soon to Gambit in St. Paul. No spoilers, but that's a can that's going to go into the collection. Really cool. I'm excited about that. I've had a conversation with Bruce at Imperial Yeast, and I'm very happy to say that they're sticking with us with the reduced schedule. And I'm always grateful for Imperial's continued support and their excellent products. For instance, LO2 Fest, the first of 2 new seasonal yeast strains from Imperial Fest is available right now. Get into the spirit of Oktoberfest with Imperial's go-to for traditional malt-forward lagers. Perfect for Märzen, Oktoberfest, and Bock's. Oh, it's been a long time since I've had a Bock, I think. Fest produces clear beers with a clean, dry finish and excellent malt character. LO2 Fest is available through early October, but quantities are going to be limited, so order soon. And speaking of ordering, Imperial's new online ordering portal is up and running for commercial and retail customers. The rest of us homebrewers can find Imperial Yeast, as always, at our favorite local homebrew stores. It may not feel like Oktoberfest weather right now, but that means that we need to brew them so that they'll be ready in time. I always look forward to fall. And I've already seen a couple of Arkansas breweries who have released their Oktoberfests, which is fine by me, by the way. I drink at Oktoberfest any time of year. Anyway, ask your local homebrew store about LO2 Fest from Imperial Yeast. And as always, check out all the dependable deliciousness at imperialyeast.com. It's imperialyeast.com. Okay, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And when I learned that Jack McAuliffe had moved to Lincoln, Arkansas, which is about 15 minutes from my house, as a beer journalist, I felt very lucky. I'd read about Jack in Maureen Ogle's book Ambitious Brews, and the opportunity to hear the story of New Albion brewing from the horse's mouth seemed too good to be true. Sadly, as you've heard on the show, Jack passed away this past month. Steve and Gretchen Wilkes joined Susan and me to go to Jack's favorite tap room in Siloam Springs to spend a little time with Jack's sister the other day. Jack's sister Kathy, to remember our times with Jack. Locally, we also got to say hi to Jack's daughter, Renee, briefly as well. I got to thinking about the time that we spent with Jack on this show, and I thought it would be a fitting tribute to play excerpts from those episodes for you as a reminder of who Jack was, and to get a chuckle or two as well. And you can hear all of the episodes of the 940 some odd episodes of the podcast are always available either in the podcast feeds or on basicbrewing.com. So if you want to hear the whole shows, of each of these, go to the archives. First of all, let's start with a portion of the May 10th, 2012 episode where I met with Jack at Kathy's house to talk about the origins of New Albion brewing and modern craft beer. Well, Jack McAuliffe, welcome to Basic Brewing Radio.
Why, thank you.
And welcome to Northwest Arkansas.
Thanks again. I like it here.
You were in San Antonio. Now you've moved up here.
That's correct. Yeah.
You've moved up with your sister, and you're going to be building a home up here.
Yes, that's correct. Actually, that's a cottage and workshop. You know.
Maureen Ogle calls your brewery, New Albion Brewery, the most important failed brewery in the craft beer industry's history.
Well, I think in brewing history, not just the craft brewing history. I'm familiar with the quote.
It's kind of a backhanded compliment, don't you think?
I don't know. It makes sense to me since, I've come to realize the position that the New Albion Brewing Company has played in, modern American brewing history. It's where people basically saw themselves, at the time there was only large breweries extant, and there was the Anchor Brewing Company in San Francisco, but that is a completely different entity from the large breweries. And from what I did is I showed it was possible to actually build your own brewery, build your own brewing equipment, and start from the ground up a commercial brewery. And that's what she means by that, I believe. And that's, the way I see it.
Yeah, it's what the corporate people call a paradigm shift.
Yeah, I reckon. Now, also, when I started, there was something like, 29 brewing companies in the United States, and today there's over 1,500, between 1,500 and 2,000, and growing. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, you started something. Now let's go back a little ways. Where did you discover a love of good beer?
I'd always liked beer, and then I was in the Navy, stationed at Scotland, and I liked the beer there. And I also discovered, they would, since Europe was very close, there was a lot of imported beer in the stores in Scotland. By import, it means across a little bit of water, not halfway around the world. And those beers are really, really good too, of course, because they didn't have to be stripped of all their flavors and proteins and that, because the shelf life, they weren't shipped for 2,000 or 3,000 miles like happens in the United States. Mm-hmm. That's why one of the reasons that American beers are so light because they travel long distances and require, a substantial shelf life capability. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so they didn't have to deal with that. So I became familiar with a broad palette of beer flavors. So.
And what were your favorites at the time?
Oh, I can't remember. I always liked, I always ordered a pint of heavy at the local pub in Scotland. I lived out in a little place called Strone. I was stationed at the Holy Loch in Scotland, and fortunately, just 2 doors away in this little village, there was a pub, and I just walk over there. It's like living in San Francisco. There's 2 bars on every corner.
And the philosophy of drinking, or the culture of drinking over there, is quite different from what was going on over here in the United States.
Yes, it's mostly done at the pub and that sort of thing. It's it's a public house. It's like the social living room of, your neighborhood, much as it is in San Francisco today too.
So you discovered this good beer,
Uh-huh.
and you came back to the United States, and what did you find?
At that time, like in the early 70s, high-end on-sale businesses were beginning to distribute a lot of imports. And although I tried them and recognized they were much less flavorful than the same brands in Europe because of the shelf life and travel requirements. And also that was when wine was becoming popular. I was living in California at the time, Northern California. Wine was becoming real popular. Small wineries, a California cuisine was coming into being, all that sort of stuff. So I thought, a real live, traditional brewery was something that's entirely different from American beers. And I was familiar with ales since I'd been stationed in Scotland. So I thought, and I was a home brewer, of course, and so that's what I decided to do. And that's how and why.
So what was the state of home brewing at that time? I mean, what were ingredients available, or?
Home brewing in the United States had just recently been made federally legal, and the same thing happened in Great Britain when I was there. And there was the what is that movement? I'll remember.
Campaign for Real Ale?
Yeah, camera. And I was in Glasgow doing something, fiddling around and and I was in Booth, the chemist, and I saw a homebrew kit. I said, man, I gotta try that. And there was Dave Lyons, a big book of brewing and everything. So that's where I began homebrewing in Scotland when I was in the Navy. And because I thought to myself, when I get back to the United States, I'm not gonna have access to beers that taste like this. So by the powers, I better learn to make them, which I did.
And you're an engineer. Your background is being an engineer, and so that had to appeal to you as well, the gadget side of things.
Oh yeah, heating and cooling, pumping, and all the brewing is very mechanical. As I say, farmers make wine and engineers make a beer and spirits.
So you're in California, and this is the mid '70s. What got it into your mind that you could start your own brewery from scratch? I mean, the reason that your brewery, New Albion, is important to the history of the brewing industry is that you came up with this seed, this idea that you, the lowly home brewer, could, try to get in the market with all these big guys. I mean, what was the inspiration?
Well, first of all, I wasn't going to compete with the big guys. It was an entirely different product, not available in the United States. Secondly, a home brewing outfit, making it from grain, is just a miniature version of any brewery. I mean, they all do the same thing. Anyway, I'd been employed in Silicon Valley as an optical engineer, and I got tired of living there. It was crazy down there, and I helped a friend build a large custom design pole house up in the town outside of Sonoma, and I learned how to build a house there. There were two other real craftsman type carpenters that I learned home construction, framing, finishing, and I did that, and I did all the plumbing and all the wiring and that sort of stuff. So I knew how to construct, how to build things. And so I had those skills. I was a welder, having apprenticed myself at a welding shop in high school after a brutal summer of physical labor work. I decided I need some skills. So I apprenticed myself to this welding shop in high school and learned to weld. So I could do that, do the metalworking, and with those sorts of skills, and I bought myself a microscope, bought older books on breweries and brewing and microbiology from the 1800s, and those were the sorts of techniques and stuff that I used to build the New Albion Brewing Company. We had a professional microbiological lab for control there, and it was just a small, real brewery, I reckon you could say.
So you started. I mean, you had to go back that far to the 1800s to get the textbooks and things. I mean, was there not more recent research available for you?
Well, that was all modern sort of stuff. The techniques and that sort of stuff that I was going to be using for this brewery were older techniques, like not, how do we get all of the protein out of the beer? I wasn't interested in that. Modern microbiology deals much more with electronic equipment and that sort of thing, and that, of course, was beyond my financial reach. So, what I got skilled with was, 1,000 power optical microscope, an alcohol flame, and a loop, and petri dishes, and just regular old-timey. Mm-hmm. And I got these antiquarian books. I had purchased a copy of Pasteur's Études sur la bière, Studies on Beer. English translation, I don't know what it was called. Anyway, a monograph of his research on and explaining to brewers what their problems with why their beer didn't turn out right sometimes. And of course, it's microbiology. Anyway, that right, Matthew?
We're surrounded by loving animals. Yeah. So, in a sense, I mean, did you feel that that technology had kind of stripped all the life out of beer at that point, and did you feel like you were kind of stepping back to find the qualities that you enjoyed?
I guess you could say it like that. That is to say, I mean, that's the result of it, but that's not why I did it. I did it because those sorts of techniques those are the techniques that home brewers use, and to move into the highly processed field of brewing it's enormously expensive to do that. The technology required. So that's basically why.
It's the entry level point.
That's correct. And of course, it's nowadays it's called artisan or craft brewing, which is like it's that sort of brewing and not high tech brewing.
Right. So how did you get started? I mean, you had business partners at the time, right?
Yes. Found a few people who thought it was interesting, local investors. We started off with $3,000 of initial capital.
Which is chicken feed today.
Right. That was when 1,000 board feet was $240.
So you had your investors. Now talk about the brew house, what you built for your brew house.
Okay, what I did is I welded up a steel structure and built a traditional gravity flow brewery. That is today, of course, a modern brewery everything is on the same level, and you pump from here to there and that sort of thing. Well, pumps are expensive, and in the old days, breweries were gravity flow. You put your cold water at the top. Okay, that's where you start, and you would mix your calcium sulfate in there, to adjust the chemical composition of the beer. Then from there it would flow by gravity down to the hot back, where you would heat it in preparation for mashing. Below that would be the mash tun. The hot liquor at that time would flow to the mash tun and be mashed in with the grain. From there, it would flow down to the brew kettle, where it would be fired and boiled. And then from there, it would flow to the hot water receiver and then be pumped to the fermenting cellar. So it all would cascade in the. So I built this tower, 2-story high, 20. It was in a warehouse, so I used the peak area where the peak was, and I built steel I-beams that go up and cross beams, welded it all together, and fabricated the vessels from 55-gallon stainless steel barrels that I would cut and weld up and put fittings on and that sort of thing as required. What they were was surplus Pepsi Cola syrup, 55-gallon drums. That was when the syrup was distributed to the bottlers, not in bulk, but in 55-gallon barrels. They'd recently switched to bulk, so they had all these 55-gallon drums to sell off. I bought, I don't know how many, every vessel I had in the brewery was made out of them. I bought them from Wine and the People in Berkeley, where Byron Birch worked. He's after that he started a home brew, really successful retail business called The Beverage People in Santa Rosa, California. Anyway, that's where I bought these, because they had purchased them, or maybe he directed me to somebody who had them. I can't recall. That's been a long time ago. Anyway, so that's what I used to make the brew house and the fermenters. Had five primary fermenters, I believe, and 10 secondaries, because it would ferment for a week about in the primaries and be transferred to the secondaries for 2 weeks, and then we would bottle it.
What was your capacity at the time?
The brewery we did is our capacity was 450 barrels a year, and this is at the time when Anheuser-Busch was building their new brewery in Fairfield, California, and I believe the capacity of their brew kettle was 600 barrels. So it took us all year to brew basically about what they brewed in about 8 months. Excuse me,
8 hours.
8 hours, yeah. Exactly. So that's the size of comparison of the brewery.
How did you go to market?
A brewer in California could self-distribute at that time. So that's what I did. I, had my little hand cart and loaded it in the van, and off I'd go.
And at one point, were you living at the brewery? Is that right?
Oh yes, I built a little living quarters above it. Yeah.
And at first, it was just you working in the brewery, right?
Well, actually, there was three of us ran the brewery. Me, Susie Stern, and Jane Zimmerman. Jane Zimmerman left after about 6 months, and Susie Stern and I worked there for she was there for maybe 3-4 years. And we hired some people. We started, brewery grew, and capacity output grew. So we could hire someone to run to help out in the cellars and that sort of thing. And of course, we needed. I think we had hired three people. We bottled on Wednesdays. Once a week we'd bottle. So we needed people for that. So that's it.
And where did Don Barkley come into it?
I had become acquainted with Michael Lewis, who he started the first academic brewing program in the United States at University of California at Davis, which is the so-called ag school. It's a far stretch from the old ag schools. Anyway, and there was a meeting of some sort over there with him and people who ran breweries. One of the Coors boys was there, and and he was starting a brewing program, and Don. So, we'd go back and forth, and that's where I first found these antiquarian books in the Davis Library. And I'd go out to all the antiquarian books around the Bay Area and look for brewing books, and found some, of course. Anyway, what we would do is we'd say they'd come over for tours. Dr. Lewis would bring his students over for tours and that sort of thing, and then decide. In the summertime we would have an apprenticeship program and get one of the students to come over who volunteered. They're unpaid, but they'd learn how to run the brewery, real hands-on sort of thing, the whole shebang. I had them, and these students, did everything, enter all the federal records and do the taxes and everything, completely acquainted with the operation of a brewery.
And Don was one of those?
Yes, he was.
Now, according to Maureen Ogle's book, the first time Don came to the brewery to ask to work for you, according to Maureen's account, you didn't exactly welcome him with open arms.
That is a communist lie. I don't recall it like that, but who knows? There was probably some, catastrophic emergency happening at the time, that I just couldn't deal with. Something's happening. The words all over the floor.
It's a more fun story, though, told that way.
Yeah, I reckon. I've heard it quite often.
It's more fun. It's more fun to tell the story that he came to ask to work for free, and you told him to get out.
You have to pay me.
Now, you said that some people you were attracting attention from people in the brewery program at Davis, and some of the people that came over, Ken Grossman of Sierra Nevada was one, I guess.
Actually, at that time, as I recall, Ken was running a homebrew store in Chico, California.
Okay,
all right, and he came by, and he has told me when he saw the brewery, he was a home brewer too, and he had the same skill set that I have as far as making stuff and building. And machine shop and welding, and anyway. So he said to himself, "My word, this is nothing more than a great big homebrew outfit." Which of course it was. Every brewery is just a great big homebrew outfit.
Right.
Anyway, and he said, "I can do this."
And he did.
He did, by the power.
And
he's done it really well. Yeah. Have you seen his brewery?
No, but
man, you got to go.
I've sampled the results.
Well, you got to go check out the actual brewery. He's really done it right.
And they're opening another one on the East Coast, I think.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's right. If not, I'll cut that out.
Call Ken. You want his phone number?
So you were having an influence. I mean, you were it's that paradigm shift that I mentioned earlier.
I thought, man, this is my field. Get out of here. If you want to do it somewhere out of California.
So you weren't in the sharing mood at that time.
Well, of course not. No one in business is. It's unarmed combat.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of beers were you making? I guess we should talk about that.
We made ale, porter, and stout. And at that time, we were also making a keg beer ale that was lighter than our bottle ale. California rules at that time is that you can only... Okay, the distinction between beer and ale in California is the amount of alcohol by weight, not volume as they use now. Beer could be called beer only if it was less than 4% by weight. Anything over 4%, 4% or over had to be, or over 4%, you could call it ale, porter, or stout. And bulk beer sold in kegged beer had to be beer. You couldn't sell, 5% ale in a draft.
No.
So we made a light ale for draft purposes.
It's funny how laws shape beers over time.
Yes.
So you were also making a barley wine as well, weren't you? Or?
That was an occasional beer that we made for our summer solstice party. Eventually, it came to be called Old Toe Sucker. You want to hear the story, but I'll tell you the story, but you can't. I'll tell you later.
Okay. But were you getting, as they say, traction in the marketplace?
Well, we certainly sold all we could make. There's no two ways about that, or all we didn't drink, we sold.
Talk about the evolution of the company. I mean, what was the arc? I mean, why isn't there a New Albion today?
Okay, we started in 1976. By 80, I had spent, 7 days a week at the brewery every day. And with that small of a volume, we had to get bigger. And there was room, I can tell you, there was a lot of room in the marketplace for that, Anyway, as Ken Grossman will tell you. And this was at the time when Jimmy Carter was president, and when the inflation rate was up around 15%, T-bills, today you're lucky if there's some people that actually give the Treasury money on their T-bills because they have to put their money someplace, and the interest rate now is about zip point shit. Mm-hmm. Okay, then the interest rate was 15. T-bills were going for 18%. All of the investment money flowed to T-bills. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're crazy not to do that. And I did not know that's looking back and seeing, and then we put together a business plan and put all of our money, it's making a bet, all of our money went to financing this great leap forward. It's a bet that entrepreneurs make. I can get funded before I run out of money. It's a race. Well, we didn't get one single investor when we floated the plan. Not one. Because a brewery is a really low rate of return investment. That's why all of the small breweries that are now popping up to do this stuff are, owned by the initial investors. In today's environment, you might be able to attract investors, but it's not like when computers first came out, or it's like Like, let's build us a car factory, make some money. You're out of your mind. Look at what's his name? What's his name? DeLorean.
Yeah.
You know, you can't do that.
So there was no money, and eventually
we ran out. It was the bet. You know, we had this much money, reserve. We bet if we could spend it all, take us, 6-8 months to spend it all, try to do all this new development stuff, and if the investment didn't come in at that time, we were out of money, man. We were broke. So that's what happened.
So after that, what happened? Where'd you go?
I became involved in the control and automation industry. That's the sort of stuff I've done ever since then.
So you got a real job.
I got a real job. Yeah. I was programmable logic controllers, that sort of PLCs.
So as you sort of saw the fruits of your initial seed that you planted being harvested by other people across the country and around the world with the new wave of these smaller craft breweries, what'd you think about that?
Well, from my background and understanding, the finances of how things worked and that sort of stuff, of course, I wished them all the best of luck. Hey, go for it, dude.
Now, later that year, I invited Jack to join Steve Wilkes, Andy Sparks, and me out on my driveway to brew up a clone of his New Albion Ale. He was able to talk about the upcoming re-release of a batch of New Albion by the Boston Beer Company. Very exciting news at the time. While we brewed, Jack told us about how he invented what would become the American Pale Ale style. Let's go back to the September 20th, 2012 episode. So what we're doing today is not Old Toe Sucker. This is was this your flagship beer?
Yes, the pale ale as it is, a little hoppy,
And what inspired this beer?
A regular, simple style of ale. Classic ale.
Mm-hmm. And this is beer that are similar to beers that you had in Great Britain when you were in the Navy?
Well, not quite. But I was exposed to, much more than, the beers that you could obtain in the United States at that time.
So we're talking about a really complex grain bill here, really complex recipe. When we talked about getting this recipe together, I got my notebook out, and I was ready to take a bunch of notes on all the grains that I was going to have to gather. And you said, "What's the grain bill?"
The grain bill is 2-row malt.
So there you go.
Pale malt.
So no crystal. No, nothing else.
No, we use crystal like in our porter, and of course we use black malt, patent malt in the stout that we made. But the ale is just a straightforward one type of hops, one type of malt, one type of yeast, and real straightforward.
And nowadays they call it a smash, single malt and single hop.
Okay.
Smash.
Yeah.
And the hops are Cascades.
That is correct.
We're shooting for a starting gravity of 1055. We got a 5-gallon batch. So what we've done is we are doing 11 pounds of 2-row, and we are mashing at 148 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's the temperature that you mashed at.
As I recall, yeah.
And why that temperature?
It's got plenty of body to it and that sort of thing. And at lower temperatures, you'll get more fermentable sugars. And using all malt, there's going to be plenty of body, I can tell you, at a lower mashing temperature.
So, Jack, talk about the brew day at New Albion. When did you start, and what was your process?
We start about 6 o'clock in the morning. Get the hot liquor back up to temperature, run the base liquor into the mash tun. By that time, I'd have the malt all ground up and bring it over as about regular trash can full of malt. That's a container, and we'd mash in probably about 7 o'clock or so, and at about 148 degrees, somewhere close to there, and we'd mash for an hour, and then start running to the kettle. It would take, I don't know, an hour and a half to, slowly run the mash tun. And, of course, we'd get the kettle fired up before it was full. And then we boil for an hour. And the hops additions were a third. The first third is when the kettle got to a boil. Then a half hour into the boil. And then the last addition was about 15 minutes before we'd strike the kettle to the hot work receiver.
So how big of a batch are we talking about here?
It was a barrel and a half, about 45 gallons, because I fabricated all of this, the brewing vessels from 55-gallon stainless steel drums that they were Pepsi Cola syrup distribution drums. That's before they started doing it in bulk on big tanker trucks. And when they did that, they liquidated all these stainless steel drums. And I must have, we had 5 primaries, 10 secondaries, fermenters, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 brewing vessels in the brew house, all fabricated out of this stuff.
So a barrel and a half, you had to be brewing a lot.
5 days a week. Yeah, when I told Jim Cook how big the brewery was, he says, "No wonder you went out of business."
There are economies of scale in this business.
But that's what I had access to.
Yeah.
And I could fabricate stuff and that sort of thing, but, that's what I could do.
So how did you package?
It was originally sold in 12-ounce, standard bar bottles, the tall ones. And I made the wooden cases because, being the first one, you couldn't buy, you had to buy, like a train car load of packaging. So I had to get it here and there. So that's what I did. For instance, I bought the returnable bar bottles from a distributor. He was eager to sell them to me because I would pay him cash money. What the big brewers did is they were required to pay, the distributors had to pay the return freight to the brewery. Wow. So he was very, very glad that I showed up and paid him something for the glass.
And did you bottle by hand, or how did that work?
Oh, yeah. We used a 3-spout siphon filler, like a lot of winemakers use. Yeah, capped them by hand, just like your little gizmo. Yeah, you betcha.
And they were all naturally carbonated, just like homebrewers do today, right?
Exactly. Well, that's the carbonation or the conditioning process. It was simple and available to us. Didn't have compressed carbon dioxide and carbonation stones and that sort of thing.
So you were making real ale, what they
yes.
refer to as real ale now.
Like in Great Britain, yes, indeed. Huh?
So we figured out the hopping, and much to Andy's dismay, we went with 0.7 ounces at 60, 0.7 ounces at 30, and 0.7 ounces at 15. And I think we're hitting the top of your desired IBU range according to the Daniels calculator.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
So you were talking about because you were such a small operation, you couldn't buy your hops by the train, the train car load like every other brewer.
Yeah.
So tell us the story of how you got your hops.
Well, this is just about the time that this new hop variety called Cascades was being introduced. And so, I called the hop dealers around like Hopstein and I've forgotten all the others up there, like in Yakima, the brokers. And I got a hold of this one guy that said, yeah, we got some Cascades that we can sell you. And, hops comes in 200-pound bales. And Lord knows that, 200 pounds of hops would last me when we were starting from here to eternity. But he said he'd sell me a bale. So I bought one, Cascades, and that's how Cascades came to be used in New Albion, the only hop we ever used, because it's the only one they let us buy.
and the big brewers didn't want it because they didn't know anything about it.
Well, they were probably introducing it slowly, because like a large brewer would use 2 or 3 years worth of buying that they bought. They'd keep 2 or 3 years behind them, and they'd buy maybe 10 or 12 varieties. So as they used them up, the beer would taste the same. It was you understand what I'm saying? It was a blend of this, that, and the other. Anyway, but New Albion had this very particular taste of this new hops called Cascades. It was very floral and like grapefruity and peachy in its aroma, and it bittered well at the same time. And so about a year goes by, and we use maybe a third of this 200-pound bale of hops. But we'd order another one from him, and sure enough, this guy was kind enough to send another one along. I think the price was about $1.50 a pound, maybe $2 a pound in those days. And so we just take the old bale down to the dump and throw it and start working on a new one. And it smells so good, so fresh, how you grab it and you rub it between your hands and sniff it real good. Anyway, so that's how that's the hop story. so that's
how the American Pale Ale, that nice citrusy, floral, hoppy style came about.
I reckon. I can't think of any other way. Can you?
No. So you have the first-hand experience. That's cool. That these.
It just happenstance how things happen as we went along.
How cool is that? One more episode from 2012. We followed Jack to Denver and the Great American Beer Festival. That's when Jim Koch of the Boston Beer Company announced the re-release of New Albion Ale and paid tribute to Jack's contributions to the industry. This is from the November 1st, 2012 episode.
We're all here in Denver for the Great American Beer Festival, which is an extraordinary celebration of the American craft brewing revolution, which today has become the center of the world's beer culture and is transforming beer not only in the United States but now in other parts of the world. And like all revolutions, it had to start somewhere. You see this enormous flowering of energy and creativity that is craft brewing in 2013, but it wasn't always this way. I've been coming to the GABF since almost the beginning. It was at a little hotel in Boulder, so the GABF began as something very modest. But even before that, the craft brewing movement began as something modest. And all we see today is this enormous avalanche of beers and breweries, but that avalanche started with one snowflake. And that snowflake fell relatively unnoticed and almost forgotten. I would love to introduce you to the man who brought all of us here today and who started everything that we all know, love, and enjoy as craft brewing. It all began with Jack McAuliffe.
Hi there. I'm little Jackie Snowflake. It sounds like a David Sedaris line, doesn't it? Well, I guess what amazes me most about this is, of course, all the people that are doing this. I had, of course, no inkling at all of the sort of thing that was going to happen, especially since I've been out of the business since 82 or so, and went off to do other things. And so I got re-exposed to what was going on by Maureen Oggle, who was writing an academic modern history of brewing, and she got me to talk. Anyway, so I guess that's where we stand now. I reckon this has always been the case. A lot of people have questions they want to ask me, and I'm more than willing to entertain such things. And I'm told there'll be time for doing this later on, and come on up and quiz me. I'll tell you what I know and that sort of thing. Is there anything else anybody would like me to address or talk about?
How does the new beer taste?
It tastes remarkably familiar. One of the things that gives it a particular flavor is, the 36C4 yeast that I've forgotten where we got it from. Some a brewer's laboratory, I think in the Chicago area. There was still some stamp at that point, but they're really not left anymore. And it was stored at the brewing library, the East Library, the University of California State. Anyway, see this out. This is the long shot brewing contest. In all due modesty, and with much thanks to Jim, I think I've won the biggest of the long shots, and certainly the most unlikely. Thank you, Jim.
Cheers.
Little Jackie Snowflake. Okay, we got one more conversation with Jack. In the January 6th, 2022 episode, we convened at Fossil Cove Brewing in Fayetteville with owner Ben Mills and members of the Fayetteville Lovers of Pure Suds, or Flops, as they brewed up a batch of Jack's old Toe Sucker barley wine. Jack had slowed down quite a bit by that time, but it was still great to touch base one last time.
So, Jack, can you tell the story of the original Toe Sucker Ale and the occasion that you brewed it for?
Well, it's been a long time. I remember that I came up with the name Toe Sucker Ale, but I don't remember what it was for. It's just a name.
Now the story I heard, maybe from you, was that you brewed this barley wine for the summer solstice.
That's correct.
And your partner, your brewer's assistant, Don Barkley,
Okay.
had a sufficient amount of this barley wine at this.
That's correct.
Is it coming back to you now?
Yeah.
So what did Don do at the solstice party?
I've forgotten that.
There's a clue in the name of the beer. It's Old Toe Sucker Ale.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's right. When he went around and started sucking the girls' toes at the party. We were all laid out like, in summertime. And they all the women got their toes sucked.
Now, did this happen more than once?
No, only once.
But that's all that's got to happen, right?
Oh, God, yes.
It's good to see you, Jack.
Okay, I'm glad to see you, too.
Very well, Jack. Thanks for everything. I hope you all enjoyed this trip down memory lane. I may be doing more of these kinds of shows where we dig into the archives and maybe catch up with people from the past to see how they're doing today. If you have any suggestions on who you'd like to hear from again or something you'd like to revisit from long, long ago, drop me a line. We're coming up on 950 episodes in the archives, so there's a lot to explore. If you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to james@basicbrewing.com or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Check out our mobile-friendly shop at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody supporting us through our Patreon page. Special goodies coming your way. Check that out at patreon.com/basicbrewing. It's all until next time. Until then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dodson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. In the meantime, stay well and stay tuned. So long.